Hello and welcome to this walkthrough of our guide to total rewards at Shopify. My name is Zach Ashburn. I'm the Chief Planning Officer at Reach Strategic Wealth. And our experience has showed us that there's some room to improve the understanding and the execution of how employees at Shopify navigate their total rewards. So, hope this resource will be helpful for you. A few things as we get started. We've made this resource based on publicly available info that we believe to be reliable, but you should always check with your employer and with your professional team as you begin to make decisions. Second of all, you have access to a few resources. Today, we'll walk through the guide to total rewards, providing a high level overview of the contents. There's much more detail that I would recommend you download this in PDF form below this video to be able to walk through and refer back to. I would also suggest you download our planning packet, which contains additional supplemental materials that provide further info around some specifics around equity compensation and how to navigate some particular issues related to reviewing your own financial situation. So let's dive right in. At Shopify, we really have seen that with the compensation structure that employees have to make additional decisions compared to some employers. And so we believe that understanding these benefits really significantly impacts your wealth building journey. I mean, if you take the time to maximize them, you're able to make more informed decisions that are specifically in the context of your family's financial goals. When we refer to total rewards, we're talking about everything. Of course, it's pretty easy when you're considering job offers and job changes to weigh salaries. But we know that, especially in our current environment, compensation goes well beyond cash. Even at a traditional company, other benefits may add up to 20, 30 more percent of your total rewards. When you add in the components around other benefits and perks, as well as equity compensation and bonus structures, it can be significantly more. So anytime we're talking through these issues, we want to be referring to total rewards and considering the overall impact of everything your employer offers. At Shopify, the flex comp structure is aligned with their values to try to engage employees in their clarity and impact values. We found that as you make these decisions as a Shopify employee, you work through should you elect additional equity in your compensation structure, for example, that aligns your goals hopefully with your employer. But this matters significantly for you and your family because compensation flexibility, while appealing, involves nuanced financial considerations, and it requires some of that prerequisite understanding of how to utilize those tools in order to navigate these decisions effectively. To make those good decisions, you have to assess your personal goals, your overall options that are available to you based on your position, and really the impact that they're going to have on finances. And when you look especially at equity compensation options, that now brings into the picture investment strategy. How much risk are you taking on for you and your family? Tax implications, potentially significant planning opportunities around how you exercise the equity that's available to you through your company, and risk management. We are concerned about not only the impact of the equity or the investment performance itself, but how does that combine with the fact that this company is paying your salary? And if companies have fallen hard times, can your salary and your equity go down or go away at the same time? These are all considerations that are now on you as the employee when you navigate a flexible compensation structure. We can kind of boil it all down to, is a 5% equity bonus additional compensation worth that additional complexity and potential risk? The answer may be yes or no for you and your family or for your position, but that's the key question when you're selecting your options. You have this quarterly opportunity in your open enrollment at Shopify to make adjustments to your flex comp. So as your understanding of your personal situation develops, you may want to revisit those options. We just fully believe that true agency, the empowerment that of a flex comp structure, comes from actually understanding your choices, not only having them. So we know that as you come on board or revisit your benefits, you have options, but they're only empowering if you, in so much as you understand them. And that's really kind of our goal. When we review annual compensation with folks, we want to take the time to make sure there's some real understanding around it. So these first few slides relate to more of your base pay and benefits along the way. We understand salary is standard pay, but we find very often that there's this issue of understanding withholdings from salary is not just a line item, but a dynamic component that's going to change throughout the year potentially, but also change in accordance with your plans. So as a W-2 employee, you're familiar, your compensation will flow through your pay stubs, and Shopify will automatically withhold taxes from your pay stubs. But automatic doesn't mean perfect. And your financial situation means that you really have to personalize your tax strategy and take action to optimize this. In your supplemental packet, you can review a walkthrough of how to review your pay stub for not only income accuracy, but the other items that might be on there. The reason that your tax withholdings may not match what you actually owe, of course, that's like the complaint, and that's the thing that goes wrong so often is we get to April and find out we have a tax bill, and you're like, well, they've been taking taxes out all year. What's going on? There's a few reasons that might happen. It might be you have a side job or you have a spouse or partner that's working as well. It may be the supplemental withholding that comes from some of your bonus structure. We'll touch more on that here in a moment. But of course, outside factors, your family situation, your filing status, your investment activity, tax credits, all these things throw off your actual tax bill, but may not be reflected in your withholdings unless you are actively updating them throughout the year, for example. So the first step, the first action item you should take as you engage in this review going through this presentation is to gather your documents. We've got a list here that I would suggest you get together so that you can conduct a real review and refine your personal strategy. We do believe that proactive tax planning is the key thing that will save so much headache. We recommend mid-year reviews and then year-end recaps to be able to take stock of, were we right about how our income situation went this year? Did we get an additional bonus or additional equity? Do we have job changes in the family, even if not at Shopify? And most importantly, that will cue you in on any actions you need to be taken, specifically updating withholdings along the way. You are likely subject to some sort of bonus structure. There's this myth that bonuses are taxed more than regular salary, and that's simply not true. The actual fact of how that functions for you is that they are taxed at the same rate as your salary. It's the ordinary income rate, your tax bracket. However, they withheld the amount that your employer is required to withhold from bonus pay is different than your traditional withholding might be. And so when you get subject to these flat rates that bonuses are withheld at, that may be higher or lower than your personal income tax rate, for the year. And so you end up with this mismatch at the end of the year because your bonuses are subject to what are called supplemental withholding rates. And what we find as we work through this problem with employees is not only that misunderstanding, but a real opportunity to dial that in with a whole year tax projection. So we can look and see, for your your annual view, we're expecting a tax bill of fill in the blank. But what we'll find is withholdings throughout the year may be less and less accurate, especially if bonuses or RSUs, things like that, are involved because they're being withheld at different rates. So you end up with not enough or even potentially too much withheld, creating that mismatch at tax time. As we dive a little bit more into the company benefits area, again, I'll refer you to your planning packet for some specific walkthroughs of these different areas, but we want to make sure we have this summary view for our purposes today. When it comes to retirement benefits available at Shop, you've got your 401k options where you can plan to contribute to pre-tax, that's traditional 401k contributions, or after tax, we call that Roth contributions. Based on our understanding, Shopify does not currently offer after-tax contributions, but at any point, if you receive updates about the 401k plans, you may want to review your options available if that does become available to you. We've got a sketch out here of how the contribution structure works at Shop, including employer contributions and the maximum available to employee contributions, so you can review that as you begin making your own plans. We do suggest to take a closer look at this slide as you consider your investment options inside your 401k plan. There are no particular recommendations here, but this is an overview of a similar investment selection screen from a 401k plan. We find most often that a lot of employees will be subject to kind of performance chasing, focusing on the recent returns of the investment options available to them. This is a little more thoughtful way to break down how you go about your strategy. So if you're going to do the research necessary to select your investments, or are you going to move towards the examples here that are called target date funds that maybe do some more of that selection for you? And again, on down the line of options. So I would suggest taking a closer look at this, and certainly reach out if you have any questions about how to align 401k plan options with your family's personal strategy. You have a variety of wellness benefits available to you at Shop. We would recommend a few key considerations as you're selecting the plans that may be the best fit for you and your family. When it comes to reviewing health benefits, it's genuinely very hard. So it's not in your imagination that it's tough to find an option that feels like the perfect fit for your family. So a few key considerations would be the premium costs that you're going to be paying throughout the year versus your potential out-of-pocket expenses. That would include your planned expenses throughout the year. It would include your likely recurring prescription costs, the expenses that you can plan for, again, as you weigh that against the premium costs and the benefits available. Never overlook the fact that checking the provider network and size and the available specialists can be a big way to save on headaches. You may find that the specialists that you need or those in your area differ from plan to plan or for your particular needs. Again, prescription drug coverage. If you know specific prescriptions that your family is going to need throughout the year, this is the time to weigh which option suits those needs best. So review your current health needs and the anticipated medical expenses you have. Compare the options, again, based on the premium and the expected out-of-pocket costs that you're going to pay. And then ensure that the providers are available in your area for your chosen plan. Also worth noting that you may have the ability to decide to utilize an HSA or an FSA. We've got some notes here on how that plays into planning. The summary point is generally that utilizing an HSA is helpful when it's available. Don't skip on those contributions if you are participating in a plan that allows for it, and it's at all possible for your financial situation. Broadly speaking, the maximum benefit of an HSA will come from making those contributions as available and then letting them grow for a long time rather than using them in the current year, because you can invest those funds and you can use them later in life as sort of a de facto retirement account, or at the very least after they've grown for a number of years. That differs from an FSA where you'll consider the need to spend those funds more quickly, more like a use it or lose it mentality. Still may be valuable to use. You want to consider the options available based on your plan. Please take a few moments to take a look at the wellness benefits available to you. We'll highlight specifically the group life insurance benefits, and you can review the action items related to the others. One of the common factors that we're looking at in life insurance for employees in the tech world especially is very simply, do you have enough coverage for your family's actual risk? It's not uncommon to take the employer offered life insurance and fail to get additional coverage, whatever that looks like for your needs, so that your family is genuinely covered for the risk that they're actually subject to, meaning if something happens to you and your income goes away. And so we would look at this in two ways. One, do you have enough or should you buy something else? And two, if you're buying something else, what should that be? So the supplemental plan available at Shop covers up to 5 times your annual salary, but it's up to a max of $500,000 of coverage. And so we may find commonly, especially for high earners, that that's not enough coverage to safeguard your family. And so you may look outside at obtaining a private policy, and that carries the additional benefit that as you leave or change jobs or your career progresses, you can keep that coverage as you go. And so often, if you are at an employer for say 10 years and you've got this guaranteed coverage, and then you leave or you go independent, you change jobs, you have to go to the private market to buy that insurance. But now 10 years have gone by and your premiums almost certainly have gone up versus buying it now, having that coverage that you need for your family's actual needs. So there's some good, careful considerations to be made. You can take a little time to review company perks, especially if you feel like you might be underutilizing them. Take a second to see if any apply to you. And we'll transition this overview to the equity compensation structure at Shop. I'll take a moment to remind you that in your supplemental packet is a much more detailed breakdown of the different types of equity compensation and how it relates to planning considerations. So for today, we'll tackle a relatively high level overview. In your planning packet for every type of equity that we review here, there is this summary of how that type of equity compensation works. So for RSUs, we've got this walkthrough that you can refer back to just improve your own understanding, especially as you consider your flex comp structure, what is maybe the most advantageous for you. At Shop, you can select the total annual amount in the flex comp wallet, and it's distributed through quarterly grants. And so you'll find that total amount divided among quarters with the quarterly amount included in your pay. When you receive RSU shares, you can sell them anytime after vesting. They're taxed upon vesting, and so you have the option to sell a number of shares to cover those taxes due. The vested amount is considered ordinary income. So for your tax planning, this is one of the areas we're looking at, is your income getting these irregular bumps throughout the year based on your RSU vesting. It's worth noting, you'll see bolded here, anytime you receive RSUs, one of the most common tax filing mistakes is what's called a zero basis. It gets reported incorrectly as if you got the stock for free, whereas in reality, you paid for it at a certain price. And if you report that, you have an enormous gain showing. That's not really accurate. So always double check the listed cost basis on your 1099-B that will come out at the end of the year. It's a more nuanced planning point, but it's one that comes up often. And it's one that we think is worth just taking that time to double check. Your tax preparer hopefully does clock that. However, we have the experience to say that that's not always the case. And if you say input that on your own into some kind of filing software, you're going to end up finding that you might miss that and pay more than you needed to in tax. Anytime you have a job change, leaving an employer, and you have equity, you want to take time very promptly to review the implications of what that means for your equity. A similar walkthrough is available for you for your NSOs if you've selected to receive those in your Flex Comp wallet. Understand that shares can be sold after exercise. You'll find that Shopify does still provide the option to sell a number of shares at vest to cover the withholdings needed. They function very similar to RSUs. So just consider the benefits available to you and what might be appropriate for your family's goals and your actual income needs in a given year. As always, we'll remind you to just review and be thoughtful about the vesting schedule that you're subject to when it comes to weighing that against your cash flow needs, the money you need coming in to satisfy your current goals. ISO's incentive stock options represent the more complex style of stock options available to employees. So you may want to take some more time to digest how they functionally work. They are also potentially a tax-advantaged way to receive stock options and this additional pay for you as a Shopify employee. What we find is that there's an enormous amount of planning opportunities for people who are compensated with ISOs. That functions mainly around the tax advantages that they offer. You can potentially hold ISOs for the correct amount of time to receive tax-advantaged structures, but it means you're accepting the risk of holding those shares for that amount of time versus the funds that you might need to fund your life. So it's some thoughtful planning to avoid alternative minimum tax issues or to maximize your ultimate outcome from using those, as well as when you want to plan your sales for maintaining those tax advantages, or sometimes specifically opting to not maintain those tax advantages. So please take the time to understand your stock options that are available to you, understand your specific grants, your vesting timelines, the tax implications at exercise or at sale along the way, and reach out anytime with any questions that you may have. Again, I'll reiterate that anytime you have a job change where equity is in the mix, review those options promptly because it's extremely important to act quickly, whatever is appropriate for your situation, but you don't want those things to expire and not have taken any purposeful action. That is a quick overview of our guide to total rewards at Shop. Please let us know any questions that you may have. Here's our contact info. We're available for you. We'd be happy to address these things more in detail. If there's anything that doesn't seem to quite add up and how it's going to impact your situation, please reach out. We'd be happy to review that with you. Take a closer look at your guide. After having seen this high-level overview, review your supplemental packet for more planning considerations. And we wish you all the best with your career at Shopify.